because the quarterback discussion continues. I don't want to say complicate itself, but it's becoming more and more fascinating. Because I don't think when Heinrich Haarberg started the game against Northern Illinois, the thought was that come Northwestern after the bye, he would still beat the guy. But he's kind of grasped it each week.
He has.
And he's won. He's 3-1. And I think if they would have lost or looked shaky, that would have maybe opened the door to go back to Jeff Sims. But he's made it hard for them to go back to Jeff Sims.
Yeah, that's the feeling you get listening to Matt Rule today. This was Tuesday that Matt Rule met with the media. And I don't know, Sean, didn't you think coming away from that, it sounds like it's Heinrich now? It's not, it doesn't sound like it's something they're messing around with.
It's Heinrich until it's Sims,
Well, yeah, it's Heinrich as long as he keeps winning and playing well. And he certainly has a shot here because the schedule's very manageable. Like, again, the reason football is so appealing in our format is because there's so much to talk about. There's so much to talk about, Sean. Yeah, he's got a nice schedule ahead, as Nebraska does, but these injuries complicate everything. It's tough. See, okay, Sean, let's just talk about it. We just agreed that you evaluate Satterfield differently now, right? Because of all the injuries. Well, shouldn't it follow that we evaluate Heinrich differently too? Because he doesn't have the available weapons either.
Right.
Correct?
I mean,
Correct?
I don't know if there's ever been a time in the last 15, 20 years where the receiver position has been this decimated at Nebraska.
So you lose your top two running backs on the depth chart, Ramir, Johnson.
Three of your top four receivers.
Three of your top four receivers.
If you're counting Xavier Betts, and I am.
Yeah, I am too. 100.
And I'll even count Alante Brown because I think pre-spring we thought Alante Brown. So like really four of their top five guys when Rule first got here.
So what's he throwing to? You lose your biggest downfield threat, your most prominent downfield threat, your most dangerous downfield threat, and Xavier Betts. Then you lose your second most dangerous downfield threat. Well, I was going to say Marcus Washington. Then your third most prominent downfield threat, Isaiah Garcia Castaneda. I mean, you really don't have a downfield guy now. Not one that's proven. You could say Malachi Coleman. Well, by the way, that's where you insert the three true freshmen because Rule talked about it at length Tuesday. Malachi Coleman, Jaden Doss, Jalen Lloyd. It's time. Now you got to see passes thrown their way.
Yeah, Malachi Coleman's already played more than four. Jalen Lloyd's played 4 games.
Yeah.
And Jaden Doss played his first game. So you have to think all three of those guys are not. They're not redshirt.
They're not redshirt.
They're going to have to play him. Jaden Doss with an extra week of practice and time, and then multiple home games here in October. You would think they get him going these next 2 weeks.
Absolutely, Sean. They called a reverse for him against Illinois. Got scratched out. They called an audible because Illinois blitzed a corner. But I've said on the show, and I mean it, Doss I think is the best of those three, and I think that'll prove itself out over time. They brought him back pretty quick from a broken arm. Was it an
arm injury?
Yeah, it was a broken arm. He broke his arm. Now it's probably a broken bone in his arm,
a fracture, small.
Yeah, but Rule characterizes it as a broken arm. Now, usually he wouldn't come back that fast from a broken arm. It's probably a broken bone in his arm is my guess.
Broken arm once. And it usually was like a 3-month, it takes a good solid 3 months on a tradition. But so, whatever it was, a small fracture, but having him back now, they got to take advantage of it.
Yeah. Well, he's good. I think you can take advantage of it. You have to start seeing the ball go those guys' way now and we'll see what it looks like.
Don't you think the base set, though, is going to be more of a 2 tight end, 2 wide receiver personnel where you have Borkacher and Fedoni or one of those other fullback guys in there, and then Alex Bullock and Kemp?
Yeah.
That's kind of
not much firepower out that perimeter there, my friend.
Well, it's a lot. I don't want to use the Iowa example, but that's kind of what you are at that point. You're just a ball control underneath throwing offense that just fights and scratches for field position and first downs.
Yeah. Puts the onus on the offensive line, number one. It's a pretty good run blocking crew, though. It's just you're down running backs.
And
listen, Satterfield and that staff on the offensive side has to be really creative, patient, and I don't know. I mean, they got a lot to think about right now on this bye week.
What did Rule say too? That was interesting to me was that teams are defending Harburg pretty similarly. They're dropping 8,
rushing 3, dropping 8, playing man,
and so they're fanning back people to deflect passes because he's got that low slot arm on his throw, but they're also taking away the run. When you have that many people drop back, and it's hard for Harburg to fit the ball in there. And that's where Nebraska's got to run it better. If teams are going to only rush 3, you got to run it. You got to take advantage of it with runs.
Yeah. How's it? So what you're suggesting is by dropping 8, it helps help stop the quarterback from getting downfield? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it makes the windows tighter for the throws.
Well, sure.
And then they're also putting more eyes on him as a runner.
Okay.
So when he's going to take off, there's more people to defend him.
Yeah, okay.
He's not going to be, like early on in the year, he had some big running opportunities. I don't think teams are going to blitz him that hard because he's faster than all linebackers and D linemen
and some defensive
backs. So you can't really put yourself at a disadvantage by missing on a blitz when he can take off and run.
Fedoni becomes really important in these discussions. He's had a good year, 12 catches. Fedoni has 12 catches. And he needs to keep being very productive.
I think he's 15 now, right? He has 30 targets for 15 catches.
Ooh, I thought I saw 12 today. Whatever the case, I would, according to Rule, Fedoni would be maybe the main target. If it's not Kemp, it's Fedoni, and then Bullock. Those are your main targets. So that's what you got to go with. Hope those guys stay healthy.
Kemp needs like 10 targets a game. You're right. It's 12. He's got 30 targets though. That's what it was.
Okay.
He's got the second most targets only to Kemp.
Yeah. So those are your guys.
I mean, he's got more targets than Bullock. Bullock has his number of targets have gone down from the beginning of the year.
So yeah, he's kind of making do with chicken wire. Satterfield's making do with chicken wire, basically. He's trying to patch it, Sean. That was a horrible way to say it. He's trying to patch this together with chicken wire is what he's trying to do. Can I say
Coming from a guy with a chicken coop.
Can I say that, Abby? I think that makes sense.
He's got to keep the foxes out of the chicken.
I need
coop.
some more pumpkin, whatever that is.
PSL espresso.
I need some more pumpkin espresso. Wow.
All right.